Some true events are so chilling, they defy explanation. Tonight, we explore three horror stories from real life that will make you question what is lurking in the shadows. Prepare yourself. Reality is sometimes more terrifying than fiction. We all love a good scary movie, but what happens when the horror isn't on screen? What happens when it's right next door, or in the car with you, or walking the same halls you do? The stories you're about to hear are inspired by events people swear are true. These aren't tales from a campfire. They're whispers from the edge of our own reality. They remind us that the line between the normal and the paranormal can be frighteningly thin. Are you ready? Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and listen closely, because tonight the monsters are real. A family moved into what they thought was their dream home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Everything seemed perfect. The neighbors were friendly. The kids loved the backyard. But soon after settling in, they started to notice something strange about the house next door. It was supposed to be empty, waiting to be sold. Yet lights would flicker on and off at the most random hours of the night. On quiet evenings, they'd hear the distinct creak of a door opening and closing, even though no one was ever seen coming or going. The real terror began when they started hearing whispers carried on the wind, faint at first, but growing clearer. Sometimes it sounded like their own names being called out from the darkness. One evening, drawn by a light in an upstairs window, the father decided to look. He crept to his own window, peering through the blinds. What he saw froze him in place. Standing in the window of the empty house, shrouded in shadow, was a figure. It was motionless, just staring directly back at them. A silent, unblinking sentinel in a house that was supposed to be vacant. They called the police, but by the time they arrived, the figure and the light were gone. The house was empty, just as it was supposed to be. The family never looked towards that window again, but they could always feel the eyes on them, watching from the silent, empty home next door. Imagine you're a delivery driver. It's late, well past midnight, and you're on your final route of the night. The roads are empty, the city is asleep. It's just you, your van, and the miles of dark highway ahead. This was the reality for one driver who took on a late-night shift to make some extra money. But this particular route held a dark secret. It started with small things. He'd stack packages perfectly in the back, only to hear them shifting and tumbling over when he hit a perfectly smooth patch of road. Then the radio began to act up. It would switch on by itself, not to music, but to a wall of hissing static. Through the noise, he could sometimes hear what sounded like faint whispers, too garbled to understand, but undeniably there. He tried to ignore it, blaming it on faulty wiring or his tired mind playing tricks on him. The final straw came one moonless night. Glancing in his rearview mirror to check his blind spot, his heart stopped. In the reflection, sitting silently in the cargo area, was the silhouette of a passenger. It was just a dark shape, but it was unmistakably a person. He slammed on the brakes, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, and spun around to confront whoever had snuck into his van. But there was no one there. The back was empty, the packages were still. Just a cold, unnerving emptiness. He finished that last delivery on pure adrenaline, quit the job the very next morning, and never drove that lonely stretch of road again. Some things just aren't worth the paycheck. Hospitals are places of healing, but after dark, they can transform into something else entirely. The long, sterile corridors, the hum of machinery, the eerie silence of the night shift, it's a perfect setting for the uncanny. A seasoned nurse, let's call her Clara, had worked the night shift for years in a large, sprawling hospital. She was used to the quiet and the occasional strange noise. But one night, she started seeing something she couldn't explain. Out of the corner of her eye, she'd catch a glimpse of a dark shadow moving down the empty corridors. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was a defined, man-shaped silhouette that seemed to glide along the walls. Whenever she'd turn her head to get a better look, it would vanish instantly, At first, she thought it was just exhaustion, but it kept happening night after night. The shadow seemed to be following her on her rounds, always keeping its distance, a silent, observing presence. One particularly grueling night, as she was walking through a deserted wing of the old building, the fluorescent lights above her began to flicker erratically before plunging the entire hallway into absolute darkness. She froze, her heart pounding in the sudden oppressive blackness. And then she felt it. An icy cold hand rested firmly on her shoulder. She let out a scream as the emergency lights flickered on a second later, bathing the corridor in a dim red glow. She whipped around, but there was nothing there. She was completely alone. The shadow was gone, but the bone-chilling sensation of that cold touch lingered for the rest of her shift, and for many nights to come. These stories remind us that the world is full of mysteries we may never understand. The shadows in the corner of your eye, the whispers on the wind, the unexplained presences in an empty room, they are chillingly real to those who experience them. It's easy to dismiss them as tricks of the mind or overactive imaginations, but what if they aren't? What if there are corners of our world where the veil between what we know and what we fear is thin? So the next time you find yourself alone at night and you hear a floorboard creak upstairs, or see a flicker of movement where there should be none, remember these stories. Remember that some horrors don't need a movie screen to feel real. They are closer than you think. Thanks for watching. Which story scared you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales from the dark side of reality. Stay safe out there.